title of the webinar reads Beyond the Epic, Rethinking Mythology Through Volga's Narrative, which says that the epic is not the ultimate. There is something beyond the epic. So here we are going to reassess the notion of mythology through the work of Volga, titled The Liberation of Sita. Now, in this session, I will be focusing on the epic Ramayana, to be specific, and to see how Volga's telling of the Ramayana challenges the traditional perspectives of mythology, and to see how she has reimagined the journey of Sita towards her self-realization. Now, as we all know, what is mythology? As we all know, mythology is a collection of short stories, legends, and beliefs that are deeply embedded in the history and identity of societies, which shaping their moral codes, rituals, and worldviews. Now, there are three types of myths: creation myths, heroic myths, and third one is moral and teaching myths. So creation myths are the stories about how the universe is formed, how the world is created. The stories related to that, not scientific, but yes, these are all mythical stories. Then comes the heroic myth. Heroic myths are the tales about legendary heroes, like that of Ramayana, the stories of Ramayana and Mahabharata. Then comes the third one, moral and teaching myths. These are the stories that impart lessons or impart mainly ethical lessons. Like we have Panchatantra tales, Jataka tales, etc. So, as I said, epics comes under the heroic myths. Okay, so what are epics? Epics are the long narrative poems or stories that tell the grand adventures of heroes, often intertwined with history, mythology, and cultural values. So they usually involve heroic deeds, divine interventions, and moral or philosophical themes. Yes, however, contemporary writers, they have revisited such narratives to explore the perspectives that are often overlooked in the grand epics. So Volga's The Liberation of Sita is one such powerful narrative that shifts its focus from divine destiny to human agency. It is such a narrative that places the readers altogether in a different position to get a better perception of the women characters of the Ramayana. Now, though the text belongs to the tradition of feminist revisionist mythology, by subverting the patriarchal ideology that are embedded in the mythical texts, this narration also redefines the conventional episteme of a woman, from a mere victim to the prestige of a liberated woman. Now, the key themes of discussion are how Volga's novel depicts the artist's journey of Sita towards herself through her encounters with the other desolated women characters of the Ramayana. And Volga has also reimagined the story from the vantage point of these women characters, namely Shurpanaga, Ahalya, Renuka Devi, and Urmila, besides Sita. Now we will also be focusing on the shift from the patriarchal duty-bound narrative to one of self-discovery and liberation. And in this session, we will also be examining why are epics subjected to re-narrations, or why do we why do we retell the epics, or what is the benefit of retelling the epics. Along with that, we'll also be analyzing how important are such narrations. Now, Before we begin, I would like to ask you all to reflect on this. When you think of mythology, do you see it as something fixed or as something open to reinterpretation? You can unmute yourself and comment on it, or you can also drop your opinions in the chat box.
I think it's something open to interpretations.
Okay, good. Anybody else? Any other opinion? Okay, so I think let's move on. Okay, so now with that, she says, I can't see the name. Anyway, can you tell me your name, please?
Ayushi.
Ayushi. Okay, thank you, Ayushi. So as Ayushi says, it is something open to reinterpretation. Okay, now with that in mind, then let's delve into how Volga, the liberation of Sita, moves beyond the epic, and also let's understand how it reshapes our understanding of mythology. Now, I have been saying this name Volga for some time, and you should know that Volga is the pen name of P. Lalitha Kumari, who is a renowned Telugu writer who is known for her feminist perspectives. Her body of work encompasses novels, articles, criticisms, poetry, and so on. And she is someone who presents women through the lens of modernity and progressive outlook. Now, to begin with Sita. We all know Sita as the character from the epic Ramayana, who is subjugated in the name of female virtue. Right? She was subjected to moral trials in terms of chastity and fidelity by her own husband. She is always identified with a stereotypical image of an ideal woman, a chaste wife, and a muted sufferer. Okay, so she is one among the victimized women, or she is one among the subjugated women in the story of the epic. Now, Volga, in the liberation of Sita, unraveled the life of self-assured Sita in the Valmiki's ashram, who embraces independence as a single mother of twin sons, after being abandoned by her husband, Ram, the king of Ayodhya. Now, she is depicted as someone who imparts, or she is depicted as a mother who imparts the knowledge of archery and other skills to her sons, embodying the strength and self-reliance, unfazed by, that's very important, unfazed by the necessity for validation or admiration from others. Now, this work, The Liberation of Sita, consists of 5 stories. One is the reunion, music of the earth, the sandboard, the liberated, and the shackle. Though each of these stories appears to be independent, they are all interconnected. Now, the work begins with the story, The Reunion. So this is a story which talks about Sita's unexpected encounter or unexpected meeting with Shurpanaga while leading a life in the Valmiki's ashram. So Shurpanaga is also shown as someone living in a nearby place in the same forest. So they accidentally met one day, and we know Shurpanaga as a woman who is immoral, who is an immoral and despicable sister of Ravana from the epic Ramayana, who is deemed to be responsible for the abduction of Sita and the consequent war. But Volga has crafted Shurpanaga into a positive persona. Through the dialogue between Sita and Shurpanaga, Volga has successfully exposed the character transformation of Shurpanaga. and her change in her perception of beauty. So Shurpanaga was someone who had been very proud of her beauty, especially her nose. She had a very great admiration for her own nose. So, and that was the woman who had been disfigured by the brothers Ram and Lakshman and turned her into an ugly figure. So imagine the impact that would have created on Shurpanaga. So here in the work, Volga has provided ample space for Shurpanaga to narrate her course of life after the mutilation and to narrate how she has survived the greatest humiliation ever done to her by the brothers. Shurpanaga, she says that Shurpanaga was devastated after the mutilation. Shurpanaga says that life was unbearable to her after that. She hated everything around her. She hated herself and everything around her. She hated everything beautiful around her. She hated the very notion of beauty itself. So, and there were many times she wanted to end her life. And because of her ugliness, she was hated by or detested by, yes, all the handsome men whom she desired after that. But years later, gradually, she was able to overcome her anger, frustration, and depression all by herself. And finally, she was able to discover a true nature of beauty. She says that she learned to embrace everything around her with the help of nature. And she proudly admits that it is her own self, her own life experiences were her greatest teacher. She realized that there is no difference between beauty and ugliness in nature. And she has also learned from her life experience that the meaning of success for a woman does not lie in her relationship with a man. And that she doesn't mean that she is not against marriage or something. She gets married after learning that lesson. So she says that after this realization, she married a man named Sudhira. Shurpanaga states, I quote, "Don't look at how I am today and imagine that all this happened easily. Sita, I have become tough by facing up to the challenges life threw at me. I have been able to find happiness in trying to understand the very meaning of beauty." So this clearly shows that the transformation of Shurpanaga, the transformation that Shurpanaga has undergone, does not happen in a single day. Now, Volga also showed Sita in a very different light. Okay, Volga Sita has also turned into a matured person after her years of solitude and experiences in the forest. But, however, there is a sharp contrast between the two characters, Sita and Shurpanaga. All right, Sita is someone, or Sita reveals that she found happiness in bringing up her children, as she finds it as a responsibility as a wife of Rama and as well as a queen of Ayodhya. So this shows that she is entangled in the social responsibilities even after abandoned by the king and the kingdom. That only after that, or only after her interaction with Shurpanaga, Sita learned to see her life in a new angle. Now comes the second story, Music of the Earth. This is the story about Ahalya. We know Ahalya as a character from the Ramayana who is again disowned and cursed by her own husband in the name of fidelity, female fidelity. She is described as a divine beauty in the Ramayana. But besides her ethereal beauty, Volga has portrayed her as an enlightened woman, which she attained through her years of solitude and life experiences. Sita has learned from Ahalya the complexities of truth and untruth, and also about the popular notion of female fidelity. Ahalya says, I quote, "There is no such thing called truth. Truth does not remain the same forever, but keeps changing continuously. So Sita from Ahalya learned the concept of self, okay, and recognized that her life has more meanings to be discovered. From Ahalya, she grasped that she is a part of the whole universe as all the other beings. Again, I quote Ahalya. Most often, women don't realize that they are part of the wider world. They limit themselves to an individual, to a household, to a family's honor. Thus, Sita understands that she is neither just a property of her husband, nor the motherhood is her ultimate objective of her life. Now, Ahalya's whole point of the argument is that why society is so behind the truth and untruth. Okay, and her advice to Sita is that to learn to accept people as they are without being judgmental. Now, that's the lesson Sita learned from Ahalya. Moving on to the third chapter, the sandpot. So here, Volga talks of Renuka Devi. Renuka Devi in the epic Ramayana is the mother of Lord Parashurama. So she is a voiceless character in the Ramayana, and she is a woman or a mother who was beheaded by her own son, Parashurama. Okay, she was accused of infidelity by the mere act of looking at a man. So she was beheaded by her own son, who blindly followed the command of his father. So Volga's story explores the voice of Renuka Devi, who was a victim of mistrust and humiliation. Volga here portrays Renuka Devi as a liberated woman who has freed herself from the clutches of the socially imposed responsibilities of a woman. Renuka Devi remembers how shocked she was when her husband, whom she served and cared for all these years through her thoughts, words, and deeds, asks her son to behead her. Further, she was devastated to see the brutal act of her own son and cared, her own son whom she served and cared for all her life, did not flinch even for a second to carry out the command of his father. So this is the most celebrated Arya Dharma, that is carrying out the wishes of one's father, which is considered as the highest Dharma, in fact. So then imagine the mother. What about the mother? What about her feelings, her emotions? So it has been neglected for ages. So the sufferings of women, suffering and pain of women is taken for granted always. So Volga here has reimagined the character of Renuka Devi, who is portrayed as a strong woman who has separated herself from her family after the brutal act. Yes, and she has started leading a peaceful life, embracing her skill of sculpturing with the other women. So she advised Sita to embrace nature and worship them. Sita learned from Renuka Devi that wifehood and motherhood are temporary roles, like a sandpot. The sandpot is something, to create a sandpot, you need a lot of concentration and patience. But it can be shattered by the slightest cause. Thus, the sandpot in that story is used as a metaphor to convey the meaning that the identity of a wife or a mother or motherhood is not permanent. Now comes the fourth story, the liberated. This is the story of Urmila, who we all know as the wife of Lakshman. Urmila is the younger sister of Sita, who had been left behind in the palace when the trio left to the forest for the 14 long years. Her existence was not counted by anyone in the palace, as they had surrendered all their concerns and worries to the tree who had left the palace. So Urmila, who was dejected by her own husband, her sister, and all the inmates of the palace, was caught among the whirlwind of emotions like jealousy, hatred, sorrow, and love. She waged a war within herself against all these feelings, and and she has done a quest within herself to find the meaning of truth. And finally, she was able to find peace and happiness within herself. So Urmila's advice to Sita, I quote, "Power is the root cause of all sorrow. I shall not submit to anyone's power, nor will I bind anyone with my power. Assert your right over yourself. Give up your power over others. Then you will belong to yourself. You will be yourself." It's not easy to remain ourselves. So this is the lesson or advice that Urmila has shared with Sita. It's such a powerful book. I personally liked it very much, and it's like it talks of autonomy. It talks of the importance of belonging to oneself. Now, hence, coming back to this, hence by listening to each of these enlightened souls, Sita's attitude towards her life has changed completely. She learned not only from her experiences, but from her interaction with these liberated women. So initially, Sita was unable to grasp the lessons imparted by these liberated women in her initial meeting with them. But later, the harsh experiences of her own life made her reflect back on the conversations with each of them. Now, the words of those women make sense to her. That is when she realized the real meaning of what they tried to convey her. Sita learned from the experiences and wisdom of these women. Sita learned that only by liberating herself from Rama, she could find her true self. And in the end, when Rama claimed her sons back, she was liberated from her children too. Hence, she found her way to discover her real self. Thus, by liberating herself from the shackles of the imposed responsibilities, she gained self-realization. She finally sets out to find the truth, that is, herself. Now, there is a fifth story titled The Shackled. Okay, this is the story of Rama. This is about Rama's personal feelings. Rama is chained by the social responsibilities of a son as well as a king. In this story, Volga explains why Rama had to behave so, why Rama behaved indifferent to Sita. So in this way, the story helps the readers to see Rama from a totally different angle. So what I feel is that the story exposes different realities, that there is no single truth. There are multiple truths and there are plurality of voices. So in this way, mythology can be defined as not just as an evolving, mythology can be defined as something which is not just a fixed set of stories, but an evolving narrative space where authors like Volga offers new perspectives. So now let's see the difference between the epic and the modern narrative. So see, the epic Ramayana which literally translates as Rama's Ayana, that is Rama's journey, narrates a story from the point of view of Rama. It is narrated from a very patriarchal social background. On the other hand, Volga narrates the story from the perspective of desolated women characters who were voiceless in the epic, including Sita of Ramayana. Now, Volga has also made it a point to write the story from the vantage point of Rama, and that too from a different angle that Valmiki failed to show. Volga here talks about Rama's personal emotions, not from the point of view of a king, but as a husband, as a lover, as a human being. Now, Volga successfully showed that there is an other side to the story, which is not often perceived. Now, again, to what is your reflection on why do we have to retell the epic? Or what is the necessity of retelling the epic? Can anyone, do you want to make a comment on that?
Yes, you can unmute yourself and share your thoughts.
Hello, ma'am. Nandikishore here.
Thank you, sir.
Ma'am, retelling is pretty necessary because epic is something that not everyone can read and understand at one go. And also, when you say retelling of mythology, it also means that you're putting your perspective, you're narrating mythologies in different ways, which gives you different ideologies with the same concept. It's just that you're telling in different ways or different tracks, as we can say, so that the people can relate and have a relevance of the mythology as the original topic or the original text. Keeping that in mind, you can also identify other ways to approach it so that it can give us a wider view of that great epic that we have. Because Sita is not a simple character that we can just say that, okay, this is Sita, this is what she was, this is Pativrata, this is Sita's perspective. Yes, absolutely wonderful. But when you look at Sita in a modern way, that is very different, which you are bringing out, which is amazing. So this is what I just wanted to let you know. Thank you.
Thank you, Kishore. Exactly. That's what the point I want to make. Anybody else?
Yes, Rohini has written to bring out their perspective on the epic, retelling it through several points of view, trying to contemporize its historiographical analysis.
Okay. So she says it's a yes. I got it. Shall we move on? Good to go?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. So, yes, that's the same thing what Kishore and I forgot her name, but yeah, what she has put it. Epics are like, yes. So epics like Ramayana have been told and retold for centuries across cultures and perspectives. So, and the question why there is an upsurge in such re-narrations of the epic is because such epics or these epics are deeply ingrained in the cultural consciousness, and that they serve as an effective medium for bringing out or introducing new discourses. Even if it's not necessary, or yeah, it's not necessary that everybody has read the text or everybody has read the epic, but all of us are aware of the characters and the incidents and the stories. So this makes the modern reinterpretations or the retellings, yes, modern reinterpretations to it makes it easier for the new reinterpretations to resonate with the audiences. Now, by reimagining these narratives, modern writers not only questions the traditional perspectives, but also contribute to the societal changes. And by encouraging the readers to view history, gender, and power dynamics from an alternative perspective. For instance, the epic retelling, the epic telling centers on dominant narratives, often male perspectives, whereas tellings like the liberation of Sita bring forth the sidelined voices like Shurpanagas, Ahalyas, Urmilas, Renuga Devis, and so on. Okay. And what about the necessity of epic narrations? Excuse me. Now, how important are such narrations, re-narrations? So, since epics are foundation, as I said, epics are foundational to cultural consciousness, it is not just necessary to re-narrate the epic, but it is inevitable. It is inevitable in an evolving society. Because the ultimate aim of the epic is to enforce the responsibilities or the societal norms like duty, obedience, and gender norms. Okay, so it is significant to understand that societies progress only by challenging the tradition or questioning the tradition. Okay, therefore, retellings are irresistible as it challenges such societal norms by offering space to the subaltern to reclaim their agency in the story where they were previously silenced. For example, see, here itself, we have seen that Volga's telling challenges the conventional idea that the ultimate objective of a woman, or yes, ultimate goal of a woman is devotion and sacrifice. It's not like that. So, see, social issues like gender, caste, and morality, they shift over time. Okay, so actually re-narrating the epics is a way of keeping them alive. All right, they allow these epic stories to stay relevant, not as relics of the past, but as dynamic stories that continue to shape the future. Okay, so with that, we'll conclude the session. So we had discussed Volga's liberation of Sita, how Volga's liberation of Sita challenges the dominant narrative and offers an alternative voices. And we have also seen that mythology is not something, not a fixed set of stories, but it evolves with time and perspectives. And it also highlights how mythology contains the multiple truth and perspectives. And since as I have said, epics are foundational to cultural consciousness, the re-narrations are, inevitable. So with that, let's move on to the Q&A. The floor is open to Q&A session.